everyone, welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today we have Mr. Lilan Wickramarathne with us. Lilan is a multidisciplinary professional qualified in law, accountancy and taxation with over 8 years of experience in the commercial law field. Currently, he is the Senior Corporate Counsel, Group Legal and Regulatory of Dialog Axiata PLC, the flagship telecommunications service provider in Sri Lanka, which is a subsidiary of Axiata Group Berhad. In his role as the Senior Corporate Counsel, he oversees the commercial litigation of the group. Apart from that, he handles all the intellectual property matters and contractual disputes of the group. Over the past years, Lilan has developed an expertise in the area of contract law, intellectual property law, labor law, customs law, tax law, and telecommunication law. He appears before tribunals and court of various legal matters for the company and its subsidiaries. Lilan was recognized as an Axiata Champion in 2020. So now, without further ado, let's dive into more about him. So, hi Lilan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi Nikhil, good evening.
Very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nikhil. Nice to be with you all as well. So, and also, I'm privileged and honored to receive the prestigious Lex Falcon Award 2022.
Yeah, all congratulations to you and the hard work. And yeah, so it's really a pleasure to have you here, Lilan. Now, Lilan, moving forward, I would like to ask you about, any complex legal issue that you worked on, and also describe the complexity and tell us how you approached it.
Okay, thanks, Nikhil. So as an in-house counsel and also as an external counsel during my professional career, I have handled several complex legal matters. Today, I would like to discuss the very first tax dispute which I handled as a junior counsel working at a law firm. So it was a tax dispute, and by the time the client came to us, all his accounts had been seized by the Department of Inland Revenue. Seizure notices had been issued on the banks, and client wanted an urgent solution from us. And he had been advised by his tax consultant and also by his family lawyer, I think so, to institute immediately legal action against the Department of Inland Revenue. So when he came to us, I went through the documents. And when I went through the documents, I realized that the department had granted him a tax holdover during the inquiry process. Then even that day, it was a very busy day for me, but since client wanted an urgent solution from us, I went through all the documents late night, and I found that under the 2000, this matter was decided under 2006 Inland Revenue Act of Sri Lanka, where when you grant a tax holdover, you cannot be considered as a defaulter. So implementing seizure notice, implementing seizure issue, or rather issuing seizure notices, it is one of the recovery actions that the department can take against a default. So then I build up the argument that if a tax holdover had been granted, my client cannot be considered as a defaulter. Therefore, it is illegal for the Department of Inland Revenue to issue seizure notices. So then the second issue was the forum. So whether to institute legal action or whether to have a discussion with the department officers and see how you can sort it out. So then the very next day morning, I had a discussion with the client, and I proposed him to arrange a discussion with the department officers before instituting legal action. So if it doesn't work, then I told him that we can then see whether legal action could be instituted. So then he also agreed with that, and I prepared a brief submission. We got an appointment from the relevant department officer, and we had a discussion with the commissioner of the Inland Revenue Department, and he also agreed my argument. And then he immediately took steps to cancel all the seizure notices that had been issued by the Department of Inland Revenue on the bank accounts of my client. And he also appreciated the fact that without going to courts, that we have come to the department and that we had a discussion. And on the other hand, client also got an immediate solution, because had you gone for, I'm not saying that instituting legal action is wrong, or rather it's not the right strategy. But if you look at this particular matter, you have to understand the expectation of the client. And had we gone for litigation, it could have been very costly and it would not have been this effective. So that I can tell you. So this is a classic case where you have to think out of the box and see how you can assist your client in the best possible way, rather than relying on the traditional litigation strategies.
Great. I mean, thank you so much for explaining that. And now moving forward, the pandemic saw some courts begin moving towards more remote proceedings and availability. So is this sustainable and a possible way to increase access to justice, in your opinion?
Actually, I feel it's a very important question, because if you look at Sri Lanka during the COVID-19 pandemic, it affected our court system. Until such time, we had not used remote proceedings in our court system, and there could be very limited instances where it had been used, but it has never been widely adopted in the Sri Lankan court system. So when I can remember at the peak of the pandemic, when the entire court system was affected because of the pandemic, the Sri Lankan government, the Sri Lankan Parliament rather, enacted COVID-19 Temporary Provisions Act number 17 of 2021, where they made provisions to conduct court proceedings using remote communication technology. Then the Court of Appeal of Sri Lanka, which is the second highest court in the country, they also issued special provision rules for electronic filing and urgent digital hearings in 2021, where they also empowered the Court of Appeal to have digital virtual hearings as an interim measure to avoid the difficulties that you would encounter in a physical setting. And then apart from that, even the Commercial High Court in Colombo, where you have all the commercial law disputes, they have also adopted digital virtual hearings, and especially in cases where the witnesses are in overseas to conduct trials. Then during the pandemic period, even the courts in the other parts of the island also adopted digital virtual hearings. But if you look at the current scenario, if you look at the current system where we are having a post-pandemic situation, except for Commercial High Court, other courts are now not using digital virtual hearings. And even in Commercial High Court also, it is being used to a very, very limited extent. So for digital virtual hearings, for it to be sustainable, you should have a proper system in place. If you look at the developed countries, they have a fully digitized court system. And I think even in the Asia region, if you look at Malaysia, Singapore, they also have a fully digitized court system. So firstly, if it is to be sustainable and if it is to increase justice, you should have a proper system. Secondly, you should be proper training to the judges, the judicial officers, and then even for the lawyers. Then finally, you have to also raise awareness among all the stakeholders. So then only it will be sustainable and it will increase access to justice.
Thank you so much again for that. I mean, that was again beautifully explained. Now, in your view, what are the key skills and qualities that an in-house counsel should possess to be successful in the job role?
So firstly, Nikhil, I would say you should be updated with the new laws and regulations, because you are providing services as an in-house counsel to the business unit. So they will come up with various legal matters, and therefore it is vital that you are updated with the new laws and regulations. Secondly, you should have a sound subject knowledge on the commercial law subjects, and also you should have a very good knowledge on the industry specific laws and regulations. For example, apart from the commercial matters, as a counsel, as an in-house counsel working for a telecommunication company, I should have a sound knowledge in telecommunication related laws and regulations. So if you're in the banking sector, you should have that industry specific knowledge also. Then thirdly, I would say you have to be creative as an in-house counsel, so that you can provide innovative legal solutions to your business units. Then fourthly, I would say you have to have good communication skills. So communication skills, what I mean is, when as a lawyer, you would be sharing your opinions, advice, your message with a varied audience, right? So you should be able to share it with this varied audience in an appropriate and accessible language. If you're trying to use the legal jargon, they will be alienated, because these are business people and business units you are dealing with, right? And then you should also, when you're providing the advice, I would say as a lawyer, you would try to analyze this and that, the case law, that is fine. But when you give the advice to the business units, you will have to boil your advice down to its essentials, right? So that is very important. And next one, I would say, as an in-house counsel, you have to be very proactive and you have to be strategic, because you're providing your services. Basically, rather, you're doing a supportive role, I would say, as a lawyer and in-house counsel in a company. So you should be able to identify the risk and assist business units to deal with those risks. And also, it is very important if you can convert those risks into opportunities. So to do all that, you have to be very proactive and you have to be strategic. Then you also should be able to perform your task under pressure, especially if you are working as an in-house counsel for a big company, for a large group of companies. You should be able to handle complex matters and also critical matters within strict timelines. Finally, I would say, when you're in-house counsel, you should have leadership skills, because when it comes to legal matters, you should take the leadership. You have the business units and you are the leader, and you have to take the leadership and provide them in the right direction. So in my view, those are the main skills and qualities that an in-house counsel should possess.
Great. I mean, it's really nice that, the way that you have explained this. So I think you have covered up each and everything here. So thank you so much for that answer. And now moving forward, I would like to ask, like, as a young professional, you have achieved several multidisciplinary professional and academic qualifications. To what extent does this blend of qualification help you to achieve career progression?
So Nikhil, market for lawyers, legal professionals, it's very competitive. I'm sure it should be now. It's very competitive in Sri Lanka, and I'm sure the situation would be the same even in other parts of the country, especially in the Asian region. So your qualifications, academic and professional qualifications, would play a major role when it comes to achieving career progression and also securing a better job opportunity in the country, right? So then, for me as a multidisciplinary professional, my academic and professional qualifications have helped me in many ways to achieve career progression. So firstly, having a finance background, it has assisted me to handle complex transactions. And you are dealing as an in-house counsel, you deal with the business units, and then some of these are engineers, some of these are accountants, some of these people, they are coming from the marketing background. So when you have these multidisciplinary professional qualifications, you can easily understand their expectations, you can easily understand the complex transactions, and it is easier for you to deal with the business units. And with my experience, I can tell you, even the business units, they prefer to deal with a lawyer with a finance background. Then secondly, having professional qualifications in different streams, they have assisted me to handle complex customs issues, tax issues, company law disputes very effectively. And thirdly, I would say, if you look at, for example, as a multidisciplinary professional, for certain legal matters, like let's say for tax disputes, then for customs matters, then for company law matters, the company, the business units, they don't have to go to an expert in that area. Because as a multidisciplinary professional, since I am also qualified, professionally qualified to handle those matters, I can always assist them, and I have assisted them. So it saves a lot of time and cost for the company, and it will always be recognized by the management of the company. Because I'm not saying now, sometimes for very complex matters, you may have to rely on an expert, but for each and every matter, you don't have to go to an expert, because within your division, within the legal team, you have a person who is professionally qualified to handle those different areas. Then finally, now these professional and academic qualifications, especially the professional qualifications like qualifications in accountancy, taxation, then customs, so they not only improve your knowledge, they also equip you with various other skills like management skills, decision-making skills, which are crucial for an in-house counsel. So that's the way it has, these multidisciplinary qualifications, they have assisted me throughout my career.
Thank you so much for explaining that so nicely. And now I would like to ask you, like, how do you maintain a work-life balance? Because that is, something that I would really like to know.
So it's again, it's a very interesting question, because I mean, work-life balance, it is important for all the professionals, not only for lawyers. And even I would say not only professionals, even for employees also, it is very important. So with my experience now, what I do is always I prioritize my work, because you have urgent matters, you have matters which are relatively more important compared to other matters. So you have to prepare a priority list of all the matters that you have to handle. So you have to prioritize the demands of the day, and then only based on that, based on the importance, based on the urgency, you can attend to those matters. Then secondly, you have to take breaks. Even it could be like 10 to 15 minutes small break, because when you take breaks, it will basically it will reduce your stress, and also it will help you to concentrate more on the critical task. It improves your concentration. Then thirdly, I would say you have to make a space in your busy schedule for your family members, right? So because you are achieving your career goals, aspirations, and your family members, it could be your wife, your children, parents, your relatives, they are also sacrificing a lot of things for you to achieve your goals. There is a commitment from their side also. Therefore, you should always allocate sufficient time to spend with your family. Then thirdly, I would say fourthly, I would say you can do exercises, right? And if possible, it is always better to do meditation. I don't do, right? But it's always better to do meditation if you have time, because both physical and mental well-being, it is very important for any professional, right? And next one is whenever possible, you should always try to use technology to expedite your work, to do things in a more efficient and effective way. Then the last point I would say is that when you can delegate your work to your juniors, you should not hesitate to delegate it. And if the work is to be done under your supervision, definitely you should supervise that. But delegation of the work, delegation of the various tasks you should do. Then you can concentrate more on I would say you can concentrate more on the important ones, and you can delegate the less important ones, relatively less important ones, to your juniors and other staff. And if it is required to be done under your supervision, that can be done. So it will reduce your stress and the workload both.
I mean, that was nicely explained, and I really like the point that where you explain that the physical and the mental health are at last they are basically interrelated. So it has to be maintained on both the ends. So yeah, so the physical health is as important as the mental health. So now moving forward, I would like to ask you, like, what is your advice to a young generation of lawyers who aspire to become in-house counsels?
So I would like to give them, I would give few tips for a younger generation who are aspiring to become in-house counsels. So with my experience, I can tell you, my first advice is knowledge is power, right? So you have to have a sound knowledge of different legal subjects. That is number one. Secondly, I would say you should always update your knowledge. You should be updated with the new laws and regulations. Then only you can provide a better service to your internal clients. Then you should always act with integrity, and you should always be honest in all your dealings. That is very important for young lawyers, because integrity, honesty, these are one of the, I would say, professional values, and in most of the companies they are one of the most important corporate values as well. Then as a young professional, you have to be confident, and you should always believe in yourself and your abilities. So especially because as a young counsel, you may not have a lot of experience, but if you have the knowledge, and if you have the willingness, and if you have the confidence, that will take you a long way, and that will pave the way for you to achieve a successful career. Then as a young professional, again, because you are at the initial stage in your career, so you have to set your professional goals, and you have to set your professional goals and the targets, and you have to basically map it, and you have to have proper timelines, right? And sometimes there could be failures, but you don't have to worry, because when you have set your targets, you know where you stand and you know what you should do to achieve it. Then next one, I would say you have to maintain always a very healthy work-life balance. That is also very important. And as a in-house counsel, you should also be a very good team player, because you will be working with different units in the company, and also even within the legal division. Sometimes certain projects and all that, you will have to work as a team. So you should be a good team player. Then the next one, I would say the final one, that is commitment at work. Because as an in-house counsel, I would say you are an employee of the organization. So you should be committed. You should be dedicated to your work.
I mean, thank you so much. I mean, that was again, so nicely explained, the points that you gave. I think that, all the young generation lawyers out there who are actually listening to this, they get to learn a lot from you. And yeah, so now they have all the blueprint, the success guide. So now moving forward, in the era of legal technology, what are the most commonly used tools for you?
So Nikhil, I am working for a leading telecommunication in the country. Therefore, I have the privilege of using all the latest technological tools to expedite our work and also to do things in a very efficient way. So firstly, I would say at office we use Microsoft Teams for these meetings and for other discussions. Then I use Zoom to have consultations with external counsels and law firms. Then at our office, we also use Adobe Sign and also DocuSign to execute legal documents and also letters and other agreements. Then apart from that, we have an electronic repository or other digital repository to store case documents or case files and agreements. We also have a end-to-end, a fully digitized contract management solution. So, I mean, thanks to the adoption of new technology, now we are able to do things very smoothly and efficiently. So during the COVID-19 pandemic period also, I can remember during the COVID-19 pandemic period also, compared to other organizations, we could do things very smoothly and without any interruption.
Thank you so much for sharing such great insights with us. And we look forward to having a chat with you again in the future on some other trending topics in the international legal world. So for our viewers, if you like this chat with Lilan Wickramarathne, please like and share this video, and also subscribe to ClickAway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have definitely more coming from the legal space. So this is Nikhil for LexTalk World signing off.